guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we're going to talk about Season 1 of Doctor Who. Both of them. And my question is, which do you think is better? Season 1 of classic Doctor Who, or Season 1 of, let's just call it Disney Doctor Who, for lack of a better term. So basically the season from 1963 versus the season from 2024, which are both called Season 1. Shoutout was 15th Doctor and William Hartnell's first Doctor. Now, I think neither of them are flawless. I think both of them have their highs and their lows. I think the 1963 season being literally the first season of Doctor Who, they're still finding their way with the show. They're finding their way with the characters. They still aren't completely on firm ground. Now, they've got a pretty good grasp on it. And the show actually hits the gate running with the first part of An Unearthly Child very well. Even the cavemen parts, episodes 2, 3, and 4, I find enjoyable, even if some people do find they drag on a bit. But I don't think anyone's going to deny that that very first episode, that part 1 of An Unearthly Child, is just... it's a grand slam. It just knocks it out of the park. It is so good. Bases loaded, and they hit it, and they really scored with that. With the Daleks following up with another grand slam, I think, for the time. I have my issues with the Daleks. Now, I do think... it's interesting, too, because now that I'm thinking about it, both seasons, both Season 1 and Season 1, have 8 stories. They both had 8 stories. Now, of course, classic Doctor Who has way more episodes because stories in classic Doctor Who are made up of multiple episodes. So way more episodes there. We're talking close to, 40 episodes versus just 8 episodes of Season 1 from Shoutout era. But there's still just total 8 stories. And if we look at Season 1, you have An Unearthly Child, which is a hit for me. I like that one. I enjoy An Unearthly Child. All 4 parts. I enjoy it. Then you have the Daleks. I'm going to be honest. I think the Daleks is a hit and a miss. I think for the time, it's a hit. I think it's probably the reason Doctor Who took off. I cannot deny the fact Dalek Mania is a real thing. Daleks is one of the things that made Doctor Who popular. And without Terry Nation, the Daleks, and David Whittaker, Doctor Who might not have continued to thrive. So the Daleks is a huge, important hit for Doctor Who. Now, I call it a miss just because personally the Daleks drags a bit. I didn't see the Daleks at a young age. I didn't see the Daleks until sometime in the 2000s, I think, actually. And just compared to other Dalek stories I've seen since, it drags, especially trying to watch it all at once, which you shouldn't really do. I prefer the color version of it, the edited down color version of it. Heresy, I know. But don't leave, come back. But as much as I have issues with the Daleks, which I've talked about on the channel many times, it drags, and most of the other 60s Dalek stories are considerably better. I can't deny that for the time, it was indeed a hit. Then you have The Edge of Destruction, which again, I'm not overly keen on, but it has a good ending that kind of saves it. It sticks to the landing. That's really the first time you see the first Doctor softening up, because the first Doctor really is kind of grumpy old man Doctor in the first couple stories. Actually, most of Edge of Destruction. Really, for the most part, the first 3 stories, he's very much grumpy Doctor. How some people think he is his whole era, which is very much not true. But he is kind of... you know, like when he's about to bash a caveman's skull in with a rock. And how he causes all the problems in the Daleks because of his, excuse me, own selfish desires. So, you really see him soften up for the first time in Edge of Destruction and actually treat Ian and Barbara as more than just nuisances, which I like. I enjoyed that about it. So while I consider it a miss, it has a really good ending that does kind of save it. I've never seen Marco Polo, even the recon of it. I have watched the 30-minute cut down of it, which I remember enjoying, but I don't want to fully judge it until I've seen all of it. But it seems a pretty popular story. I'd call it a hit just going by fan consensus of it. Now, I do love the Keys of Marinus. I think the Keys of Marinus is great. I like the fact it's almost like a mini season. Each episode kind of doing its own thing, kind of like a miniature version to the Key to Time. Very, very good performances, nice set design, really enjoy it. The Aztecs is good without being great. I like the Aztecs. I find it a little overrated. I've only watched it once. It needs a rewatch. I find it a little overrated. Is it a hit? Middle of the road for me. C. Probably give it a C. Edging into B? Jacqueline's putting in a great performance. You got the sacrifice guy in there who also plays in Colony in Space. He's great. Hartnell has some humorous bits going on where he accidentally gets married. That's really funny. Ian gets some fighting. So it's... I don't quite know why, because there's a lot of good stuff going on to it. Just the sum of its parts don't quite measure up to that level of greatness some people put it at. So good, but not great. The Sensorites I enjoyed on my first watch through. Retroactively, I think it might plot a little bit, but I remember watching it. It's another kind of middle-of-the-road one for me. And then The Reign of Terror I enjoy. I love The Reign of Terror. One of the best stories of the season and a great season finale. A really good season finale. With the Doctor, of course, being in France during The Reign of Terror. A lot of good stuff going on there. And I enjoy the animation for episodes 4 and 5. It's not perfect. It has its problems. But I enjoy it. So, really good season finale. So, looking back on it, not a lot of misses, really. A couple that arguably could be misses. One that's a miss to me personally, but not a miss historically. And then a couple middle-of-the-road stories and a lot of really good stories. It's actually pretty strong. I think season 2 is stronger. Classic season 2, I think, is stronger than season 1. But still a pretty solid season. Even if Susan is underutilized. I feel like the Doctor grows a lot that season. He really grows as a character, and Hartnell and the writers seem to figure out what they want to do with him. Ian and Barbara. Ian and Barbara are pretty good right out of the gate, actually. I actually really like Ian and Barbara. Susan, of course, is really good right at the first episode of An Unearthly Child. And then she just never lives up to her potential after that, sadly. Every now and then she has a decent episode where she gets to do some stuff. Like in The Sensorites, she actually gets a little bit to do there, as I recall. But she never lived up to her potential. She is kind of a wasted companion, in my opinion. Whereas season 1 of 2024, very much a mixed bag. You have Space Babies, which is not good. Set design looks nice. The actual directing of the episode I enjoy. Just the story itself, the writing is terrible. I think Shooty Gatwa and Millie Gibson are great together. They have very good chemistry. Very good chemistry, which is evident, which was even evident in The Church on Ruby Road, but was very evident here. One of the reasons I would find this story rewatchable is the fact I enjoy the scenes the Doctor and Ruby have together, and them bouncing off each other is absolutely fantastic. My nose is itching today, and it is driving me crazy. And the chemistry between them is fantastic. Episode 2, The Devil's Court, was good. I'm not saying it was great, but it was good. I think Jinx Monsoon is doing a fantastic job just chewing the scenery. She kind of makes me think of Paul Darrow as Tecker in Time Lash, and it's one of the reasons I love Time Lash, because Jinx is just 17-course meal with that scenery, and she's perfect. The over-the-topness she's doing for it is perfect for that role. I think she was well cast for that role. I love how she played it. I love the fact they stuck June in there, too. One of the costume designers for the original series. She designed Tom's season 18 outfit. I love the fact she had a little cameo. And they're like, we want classic people coming back. And they're like, and Russell T. Davies was like, here's June. I love that. Nice little cameo. I enjoyed a lot of the directing in it. I enjoyed the bit when the Doctor uses the sonic to get rid of the sound. He actually uses the sonic for sonic reasons. And the fact that Maestro's kind of, before completely thwarting it, I enjoy the little bit of respect there. I don't really like the casting of the Beatles. They don't look at all like the Beatles. As other people have pointed out, they look like the Beatles if all the masculinity got sucked out of them. And the fact that they only got the last note, I feel like the Beatles are the ones who should have written that chord. And it should have been a chord from like maybe one of their songs. That would have been awesome. I feel like it's a good episode without being a great episode. Boom is much the same way. I think Stephen Moffat comes back with a boom. I enjoy the idea of the Doctor being stuck on the landmine, taking that scene from Genesis and really expanding on it. I like the way the mine works. The little bit with the kiss got a little much, though. The guy kept saying kiss. It's like they wanted to have their own version of Love You 3000, and the best they could come up with was kiss, and it doesn't work. The computer hacking in and overriding the system is kind of neat, although we kind of saw that again in Joy to the World. And I'm cool with one or the other, but both just seems like a bit of a retread. I like the stage, the actual stage they filmed that on. It's like they made an artificial quarry. That was pretty neat and looked good. I didn't really care for the female soldier, the girl that's also going to be playing the new companion. I just didn't care for her in this episode. I don't know if it was her performance or the writing or the directing, but I didn't really care much for her or the guy that likes her. And then the little girl in it's just annoying. She acts like a 5-year-old, not like a however old she's supposed to be. The guest cast in this one I didn't really like. Yeah, the guest cast was a problem. The Doctor and Ruby are great, though. Again, they have good chemistry. I like that bit when she's talking about throwing it to him, and he's like, yeah, well, it's going to be a moment, yeah? I enjoy that. There's definitely some good stuff in the episode. So kind of a mixed bag, good without being great. Then you had 73 Yards. I love 73 Yards. Love it. It's another example of a Dr. Light episode that works. And I love the fact we get no explanations for it. I love the fact that we still don't know. It's much like Midnight. You don't know what the Midnight Entity is. That's why it's just called the Midnight Entity. We don't know what it is. I love that here, too. We don't know what happened. We don't know if it's magic. We don't know if it's science, parallel. We don't know. Where did the Doctor go when he disappeared? Why won't the TARDIS let her in? We don't know. Love that. You had the bit at the beginning when all the townsfolk, you think they're trying to scare her. It turns out they're just playing a prank on her, but the way they do the camera angles there are so unsettling. That scene plays out really well. We still don't know why everybody turns on Ruby. I mean, her adopted mother, Kate and Unit. The fact we don't know, what is she saying that drives them off like that? It's fascinating. It's a good episode. I enjoy it. I think the guest cast in it's really good. I love the cinematography. I love the story. It's much like Ghostlight and the Mind Robber. It's Doctor Who being Doctor Who, doing something different, pushing the boundaries, coming up with something like, I could have seen 73 Yards being an episode of The Twilight Zone back in the day. And that would have been a fascinating episode of The Twilight Zone. I like that. I cannot heap enough praise on this episode. I love the mystery of it. I love not getting the answers. Because getting the answers all the time ruins it. I don't need to know why Michael Myers is the way Michael Myers is. He just is. Curse of Michael Myers is a terrible movie, by the way. I know Dom loves it, but it's a terrible movie. Donald Pleasance deserved a better final Halloween movie than that. Same thing about, Jason Voorhees. I don't even know why Jason Voorhees is Jason Voorhees. He's just Jason Voorhees. Same thing here. And my hat's off to Millie Gibson. She puts in a great performance here, especially to be her age when she was filming that, 18 years old. My hat's off to her. Dot and Bubble, my favorite of the season. As much as I talked about 73 Yards, love Dot and Bubble. Love all the twists and turns it takes. Love all the social commentary. And it does the social commentary in a great, clever way. I don't feel like I'm just being banged over the head with it. It feels like it does it through clever writing. I love Callie, is that her name? The girl who plays Lindy in it. She is fantastic in this role. She is playing this role exactly the way it needs to be played at all points during the story. To where at first you're just annoyed with this, you're like, oh Lord, it's another one of these stuck up rich people who have been given, rich white people who've been given everything. Let's just say that like it is. Who's spoiled and never had to really work a day in their life. And so you're annoyed. And then over the course of the story, you start to root for her. She's learning. She's getting better. Look at her, able to walk. You start to root for her and pull for her. And then, of course, when you ultimately realize, no, she's just a really terrible person. And you're just that jaw hitting the floor of, did she just? I will never forget watching Jess's, on Seska Says reaction to that. And that scene when she realized that Lindy had turned on Ricky. And Jess was just like, you bitch. And I'm like, that's it. That's exactly the reaction they were going for. And it works. And then, of course, the final confrontation between that group and the Doctor at the end. And it's a wonderful performance from Shudigatwa there as well. And even Ruby, even though she's kind of behind her, her reaction of, oh, I just can't even, is perfect. It's every single person in that scene, main cast and guest cast, is doing their job perfectly. It's a great episode with a great message. It's clever in how it keeps it hidden, but on rewatch, you're like, I see there. And it's making political points about several different things. Not just one thing, not the main thing, other things as well. Classism, elitism, all of that aren't just red herrings. They're actual things it's criticizing, and I love that. Easily one of the best stories Doctor Who has put out in years. Love it. It does go to show that there's still life left in the show. And then we got the next episode, which takes all of that goodwill and shits it right out. Rogue. I hated Rogue. One, I'm not really big into romantic Doctor anyway. I'm just not. I didn't like 10 with Rose. The him and Grace thing didn't bother me as much, but maybe it's because I was, like 15 years old when the TV movie came out. Right up in there. So I wasn't bothered by it, and it was just a little more of a romantic nature. It was a kiss at the end. It wasn't over the top about it. Whereas 10 and Rose, I don't really care for. Even at the time, I wasn't as annoyed by it. I wasn't the hugest fan of it. But as time has gone on and I've gotten older, I really dislike it more. So I don't really like the Doctor being that romantic. Also, the fact that it does feel forced. The fact they're like, of course they're going to make it a guy he's attracted to. It feels like it's Russell and Shooty doing that just because they could. What's that old saying from Jurassic Park Malcolm does? You were so busy being worried about whether you could, you didn't stop to think if you should. That quote is perfect here. And like they're doing it just because they can and because they personally want to, regardless of what the fandom might think about it. Now, the actor playing Rogue, by the way, is really good. And I do think him and Ncuti Gatwa as actors have good chemistry together. They act off each other really well. But it does feel like they did that more because they wanted to than because they thought it was a good decision for Doctor Who and for the fandom. My biggest problem more than that, though, is simply the fact that romance takes precedent over the story. Doctor Who should never do that. Doctor Who should never, ever place its politics above its story. And Terrence Dix has also been on the record for saying that as well. The story itself just feels half-baked. I don't really care for it. The actress playing kind of the head bird woman, she's good. I mean, she's human for a little bit, but the actress is good. I know it's supposed to be kind of doing a spoof on Brigatin or whatever it's called. Never watched it. Don't care. And then the ending, I didn't care for the ending. First off, I can't understand how Ruby doesn't get killed there. It does a little fake out making us think she got killed. It cheats. It cheats. As other reviewers have pointed out, it cheats. I'm not going to get into that, but it cheats. And then her little earrings things to fight, yeah. And then the Doctor being indecisive and someone once again having to save the day for him. Just like in the Suntaran two-parter, The Poison Sky. Just like in The Timeless Children. Was it The Timeless Children? When the Doctor's, I'll do it, I'll press the button, I'll do it. And I'm over here with my watch going, sure you will. It's kind of that situation again where the Doctor's just, someone else has to come, Rogue has to come save the day. I'm just, bad ending. Then you have The Legend of Ruby Sunday, which could have been good, but Empire of Death is so bad it retroactively hurts it. Legend of Ruby Sunday is mostly build up for the finale. Build up for the Sutate reveal. Which is a great reveal. Love the reveal. It's a great reveal at the end. Great having Gabriel Wolf back. Absolutely adore the fact they got Gabriel Wolf back. And then Empire of Death is just one of the worst season finales the show has ever done. It's just not good. It isn't. It's very underwhelming. And you figure out very early on, it's just going to be a big reset button. All the stakes are removed immediately. When you see everyone in the unit room get killed, you know there's no way they're going to let that stand. And when it's death on that kind of scale, you know there's going to be a big reset button, reset, click, and everything's going to get fixed the way it was. There's no stakes. No stakes whatsoever. There's no tension. Nothing. You want to see something with stakes and tension? Real stakes and tension? Go watch the horror of Fang Rock. There's tension and atmosphere in that. Because people are dying. And people die. It's another one of those famously where, of course, the entire guest cast dies. All of them. And most of them are pretty cool characters I like. Not necessarily good people, but they're written well. Except for screams a lot. Ooh. Whereas here, there's no stakes because you know it's going to all get fixed. And sure enough, it does at the end. And I'm just going, oh, I knew it. Called it. Underwhelming. So very much a mixed bag. So if I was to pick between Season 1 of Classic Who and Season 1 of Disney Who, Classic Who wins. There's very few misses there. I think both have a good main cast. I think William Hartnell's great as the first Doctor. I think Ncuti Gat was good as the 15th Doctor. I think both of the Doctors aren't written the best, whereas Hartnell's Doctor grows over the season. You know, he goes from that kind of grumpy old man persona he is in those first 3 or 4 stories into a much better character by the end of Season 1. And Ncuti Gatwa is just a mix of good and bad qualities with his Doctor. He has things I like about his Doctor a lot, things I'm not overly keen on about his Doctor. So both of them aren't perfect in the role yet, let us say. Good companions. Now, it's really hard to judge because Ncuti Gatwa only has one companion in Ruby. And she's great. Ruby, Millie Gibson is great as Ruby. I like Ruby as a character, and I love the chemistry she has with the Doctor. Whereas in Season 1 of Classic Who, you have 3 companions, 2 of which are very strong, 1 of which is very weak. You have Ian and Barbara, who are fantastic together and separate. I love William Russell. I love Jacqueline in this as well. They're both great. And then you have Carol Ann Ford, who's sadly gets the short end of the stick with Susan, and Susan is just written badly. It's nothing against Carol. I think she performs the role well. It's just she's written so badly, and that is to the detriment of Season 1. It's a kind of a tie between the two, looking at it like that. And then you just have qualities of stories where I feel like the 8 stories in Classic Season 1 have a higher hit ratio. With very few misses. Not all of them are, masterpieces. Again, I call the Aztecs and the Sensorites middle of the road, but I don't call them bad. And Season 1 has a very strong season finale with the Reign of Terror, which is one of my 2 favorite stories of the season, It and the Keys of Marinus. Whereas Season 1 is a mixed bag with very good highs, a couple that are good without being great, so not quite middle of the road, slightly above middle of the road. But then you also have half of the season that's not just really not that good. They actually hit lows that Classic Season 1 never hits. Space Babies, Rogue, Legend of Ruby Sunday retroactively, and Empire of Death. It just has such a weak season finale that just leaves a bad taste in your mouth, unlike Classic Season 1, which ends on the Reign of Terror, which is great. So I say between the 2, Classic Season 1 wins. I think it is the better season, just objectively going by what I like in a Doctor Who season. Now, some people might see it differently. Someone who started watching Doctor Who in 2019, they're more used to a modern sensibilities. They might find the classic series Season 1 drags. It's long. The Daleks drags. I'm sorry, it does. They might have problems with that slower paced 60s television. I respect that. We all encounter Doctor Who at different points of time, different points of our lives, etc., etc. And the era you're born and raised in are going to affect your opinion. But me personally, I prefer Classic Season 1 over Disney Season 1, Ncuti Gatwa Season 1. And I would very much love to get Season 1 in the collection range, even if I have to handle Marco Polo as recons. I would be fine with that. Luckily, most of Season 1 exists, really with just Marco being a problem, with the missing episodes of Reign of Terror having been animated. So I want to know what you think of both of these Season 1s, and which one you think is the better one between the 2. Comment down below. and let's talk about it. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button as well. I also have a Patreon if you would like to support me on that. Several different tiers there to choose from. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons: Colin Coney, Sam Venning, Unknown289, Finn Perkins, and Paul Gibbons. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons and YouTube members. Very much appreciated. I hope Shamrock's doing okay. I haven't seen Shamrock in a while. I hope he's doing okay. I also have a P.O. box, so if there's anything you'd like to send me to look at and review, a link to my Amazon wish list is down there. A link to my Amazon UK wish list is down there as well. All down in the description. Check that out. Most importantly, thank you for watching.